There was a number of surprises that we've seen in 2018, similar to 2017 as well. You know, as you can see, we've had the question around American policy related to the trade war with China and related to sanctions, related to a number of other things. We've had the appearance of the yellow vests in France. We've had the crisis in Argentina, and of course we've also got Brexit. And all of these unknowns are, of course, generating quite a lot of uncertainty in the markets today. There's obviously a number of good things going on in 2019 as well. I would think if we're looking at the US economy is booming today, despite a lot of uncertainties around the growth of interest rates, also currencies, and also looking at the whole sanctions and so on. Partly due, of course, to the reduction in tax rates, by the corporate tax rates by Donald Trump. So this is one area I think that's good news. On the other hand, China, although it's slowing down, it's still growing. If we look at 2018, China has accounted for 30% of global growth. So this is still quite impressive. And more closer to Europe, you know, companies are still investing in Europe. That's a good thing. Consumers are still consuming. And although we do see an uptake in insolvencies, it's still nowhere what it was before the crisis in 2008. And of course, probably on a more general and a more broader scale, in emerging markets, the middle class is increasing. And this creates opportunities and economic impetus for many countries. From a global perspective, maybe to start, we see four main risks. The political risk is still a big one. The Coface's political risk index for 2018 is at an all-time high, and it's not just indicating things like Brexit, but we have elections coming up in Greece this year. We have a new president in Brazil who is often compared to Donald Trump. And of course we have Hungary, we've got Romania, we have Venezuela. So we have many elements there. I think it's also important to mention that where we have political risk, we often have military geopolitical risk. And if we look at the number of armed conflicts in the world today, this has doubled over the last decade, and I think this is something we need to be concerned about. One big, I would say, risk for this year is also the rising global debt. World global debt has reached over $230 trillion. This is 50% more than what it was 10 years ago, and this is pretty significant. Other things we can mention in terms of digitization. You know, digitization is something that creates opportunities for a lot of companies, but of course for established players it can also be a big threat if those players are not taking it seriously, or those players don't have the opportunity to innovate quickly. As I mentioned, technology and digitization has been around actually for 20 years. This is nothing new. However, one can say that the acceleration of the impact of technology is very, very fast right now. Many companies benefit from that, many digitization companies, many technology companies. However, incumbent, well-established players can sometimes find it very difficult to adjust to this very quickly. I would say the cards are being reshuffled, and that means that new players are coming into distribution, and that can often be to the detriment of established players. So there's a lot of work to do here, and many companies don't always have the capabilities to keep with this technology. I would say from a regional perspective, Poland is more or less on par with what's going on in the region in general. I think a couple of points. Certainly if I look at the agro sector here, there's been actually quite a lot of innovation in the agro sector compared to what it was 10 years ago in Poland, and there's a lot of technology being used. I think from another perspective as well, Poland is also an exporter of great IT talent as well to the region. So I would say that Poland is on par with any other countries in Central Eastern Europe in terms of their readiness and their ability to hold with that technological evolution. I think as Brexit, I would love to have a crystal ball on Brexit. I think it's very difficult to say what's going to happen now. Every day, I think we see things are changing. It's an important risk for the region in terms of what it can do. If we look at Poland specifically, 6.2% of exports are going to the UK, so it's an important export market. That's about 14 billion euros in value. So I think it's something that we have to pay attention to. But where it will go, I don't think anybody knows right now. I think we have our dates now in terms of the extension to May is very much dependent on getting a deal approved in the British Parliament this week. That looks not very probable at the moment, and then we will be going towards April 12th. But who knows? I think every day is changing on that.